Welcome to Profitable Women, a podcast for the female business owner who wants to build a profitable and sustainable business that aligns with their life. We will talk about the money stories impacting your decisions, financial strategies to grow your profits, and how to embrace your female superpowers. I'm your host, Sheila Hansen, certified public accountant, business mentor, and certified coach. As a mom of three and business owner, I have spent the last 7 years supporting six-figure business owners make confident financial decisions while raising my babies. After making the hard decision to leave my job at a public accounting firm when I had my oldest, I'm now on a mission to empower women to build wealth without sacrificing themselves. If you find yourself avoiding conversations about money, are burnt out from working all the time, wonder where your cash goes, or want to learn how to pay yourself six figures, you're in the right place. Remember, the information in this podcast is general in nature and for educational purposes only. For specific financial advice for your situation, please consult a professional. Now, with that out of the way, let's get to the show. Welcome back to Profitable Women. I am so excited. I get to introduce to you my own business coach, Geraldine Carter. She helps overworked solo CPAs and firm owners who want to go down to first 40 hours without giving up their revenue, but then even further with the goal of down to 15 hours in mind. Her clients need to stop working weekends, get their work under control, and get their lives back. She has a podcast, Business Strategy for CPAs, which I have been honored to be the guest on a few different times. And she actually holds her BS in engineering and is not a CPA, even though she coaches CPAs. She is a co-founder and CFO of a company where her cash flow forecasting models resulted in millions of dollars for climate change efforts. And in her free time, she can be found mountain biking, forested trails, or running after her two small children in Idaho. So welcome to the podcast, Geraldine.
Thank you, Sheila. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about a few of the things that Geraldine works with her clients on, from business planning and restructuring, if you will, to really focus on where they're spending their time, how they're spending their time, and then most importantly, how they're serving their clients and the mindset that comes with all of that. And so when we first look at this, oftentimes we have people who are starting businesses that were the practitioner or the professional, right? They're used to working for somebody else, and now they're going out on their own and starting a business or even starting from scratch. But how do you talk to them about that shift that has to happen from being, let's say, the doer to now decision maker and planning it all out?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting transition, and I love business ownership because it's so wonderful in so many ways, in that if we do it well, we get to have the autonomy and the freedom and the revenue and the time that we're hoping for. But it's not as easy as just hanging your shingle and telling people, hey, I'm a this and I do this skill set. I'm really good at it. You should pay me. That's what we are taught as W-2 employees, is to become a better practitioner of the thing that we are doing. So if it's psychotherapy, to become a better psychotherapist. If it's a physical therapist, to help people become more mobile very quickly. If it's an accountant or CPA, to hone up on your tax and accounting skills to do the best job you possibly can. And that's what we are taught makes money. So the challenge when we become a business owner is to really get our heads around this idea that we are no longer being compensated for the work that we do and the time that we put in. As a business owner, our clients don't care about that. As a business owner, what our clients care about is themselves and the results that they are getting by working with you. And what your clients care about are the best possible results in the least amount of time. That is what they value, and that is why they are giving you money. But it takes some time. I see it typically take 6, 12, 18 months for us as individuals who came up through the ranks of developing our skill sets to be able to make that shifts in our minds, to assimilate that concept in our body and our being, and then push it through our client roster. So what I want for listeners, or what I offer to listeners who might be in this place, is to really work on understanding what it is that your clients are actually buying when they give you money, because I can guarantee you it's not service by the hour.
No. And we have this conversation a lot in the masterminds that Geraldine offers, is getting down to what is it that they have actually hired you to do? And so often we get stuck in that, let's call it the deliverable, right? The report that we're providing or the specific list that's included in our packages. But ultimately, what they are buying from us is that transformation or the result from working with us. And so how do we get that to them quicker, easier, with less effort on their part? I made this mistake in my own business early on. It was increasing that list, that laundry list of deliverables, more reports, more conversations, more, access, whatever it may be. But that's not actually what the clients are searching and looking for. And so how do we actually make it easier for them to get the results? And so we do a lot of brainstorming within the mastermind of what this looks like. And I think it's oftentimes hard for that business owner to put themselves in the shoes of their clients because, again, we're not hiring ourselves for the service that we're providing because we have that skill set. We have that knowledge. It's not stressful for us. It's not confusing to us. But for our clients, they are coming to us because it's stressing them out. They don't know. They don't have the time to spend on it. And so how do we step outside or get that information on what is valuable to them? So do you have some tips and tricks or resources that help kind of get us out of our own situation and more into the client view?
Yeah, it's such a great question. And this came up yesterday in Mastermind. This very question was being asked by somebody. And one of the easiest and most straightforward answers is to just talk to your clients, to make sure that you have time to have sort of agendaless conversations with your clients, to catch up on what's going on in their businesses, to catch up on what's going on in their lives, so that not so inside their personal life what's happening, but so that you understand where your product fits inside the big picture of their business and how that impacts their life and how those two things are connected. When we talk about transformation, you said this phrase, what are you being hired to do? And just shifting the words, what am I being hired to solve or create for my clients? Because you're no longer being hired to do things. You're being hired to create a transformation. That can sound really lofty, like you have to sit cross-legged on a mountainside in the Himalaya to create a transformation. It's not like that. It can be much simpler than that. And with my clients, just by way of example, who are CPAs and accountants, the transformations that their clients want, their clients come to CPAs and accountants for clarity around the money. They want to be less stressed about the money. They want some of their time back. They don't want to be doing QuickBooks entries themselves. They're way slower at it than somebody who's proficient at it. And they want to increase their clarity and make better decisions in their business. So it's just 4 transformations. It's not this infinite nebulous thing. So for the listener, they can think about what are the transformations that their clients want. So I'm just imagining, say, a web designer who has clients. The clients of a web designer might feel embarrassed about their web presence, and they want to feel confident about their web presence. They want to have a professional brand so that they can show their website to the world, so that they can get more clients in the pipeline and more business, right? It's not just because they want a website. Nobody cares about a website. You have a website because you want leads in the pipeline because you want business.
Right. They want to portray a particular message.
Yeah, a particular message. And you want high quality leads. You don't just want like riff-raffy kind of leads. So we need to get in the minds of our clients to understand what they're suffering with when they don't have our product. And it's not the product that we sell. It's what having the product creates for them in their business and their life. And that's where you can more easily create transformations that don't have to be these gigantic, lofty things.
Can I give you my favorite example that you have helped show what is valuable
Always.
to clients of CPAs? It is simply being able to get a hold of your CPA.
Yeah.
Right.
So simple.
For so long, I either discounted or didn't value that for my own business, in that I respond to clients, or they know how to get a hold of me, or there is some form of, here's the expected timeline if you reach out via this method that you will get a response. And it wasn't until I started having more discovery calls, getting to have those conversations with potential buyers, that idea came up over and over and over again of, I email them, I try to get a meeting, I try to call them, and I don't get a response. And it's not even just the fact that it was tax season. It was all year long that they're not getting responses to their questions. So here I can come in and provide a calendar where you can book a meeting, or that we have regular meetings. First of all, let's just have a regular reoccurring meeting so we don't even have to try to plan that out. And the next time you're going to be able to ask your questions. Or let's build that in so that I also don't have to come in as a genius, right? It may be, in my mind, simple things that they want answers to, but it's causing them stress. It's causing them worry. And now I've gotten to the point that I can very quickly identify within that first 1 or 2 months that we're going to work together. Here's a pretty good laundry list of items they're going to ask me because they haven't had anybody else explain that to them. And so now it's taking less time on my part to be able to provide value to the client because I've had those reoccurring conversations and know when they have access to their CPA, here's what they're going to want to ask. And here's what nobody else is explaining to them. And once we get through that and they're able to trust me and not stress about it, then we can actually make progress on what it is their financial goals are, because we've gotten out of that place of it's uncomfortable, I don't even want to talk about it, or I'm stressed about it.
So you bring up a bunch of good things in there that are valuable to clients that we don't necessarily think about pricing for, because we think about pricing the work, pricing doing the tasks. For your listener, a different way to think about it is the tasks, what I do is just table stakes. And now I'm going to think about the different ways that I could put this in a box with different wrapping paper to make it appealing in different ways. So you can vary your availability, right? Are you available to be reached or not? Are you accessible? Can I get a hold of you? How fast can I get a hold of you? Today, tomorrow, next week, 3 months from now? What is it like to access you? Is it easy or not? The speed of the turnaround. So for example, I recently worked with somebody on Upwork who was laying out my book. And he said it would take probably 11 to 13 hours. And I was like, great. When am I going to have it by? And knowing what I know about how to price and knowing that he was hourly and hourly creates kind of a bunch of problems, I said, okay, I'll make you an offer. Do it when you want by whenever for $400, or have it to me in 2 days and I'll give you $500. And he was like, great, $500. I'll have it to you in 2 days. And I was like, perfect. I wanted it faster and I was willing to pay more to have it done faster. You could also make variations on how much hand-holdy you do with somebody, right? So you might have people who are very good at DIYing and you give them the info and they're off and running with it. You might have smart people, but it's still too new to them. They can't quite DIY it. So you give them the information and you support them along the way and you price for supporting them along the way. It's not the doing of the tasks that they want. If they are hiring you for the doing of tasks, you're setting yourself up to be a set of hired hands, which as a business strategy is likely be painful for you over time. So think about instead how to get the job done. What's the transformation they're looking for? What are the factors that they value most? And then pricing relative to the factors that they value most.
Yeah. And I think that can also be, if we don't stop for a moment and think about that strategy of what we want the business to be long term. Do we want to be the one going in and doing the daily, weekly, monthly items? Is that the problem we're solving? Is that we're providing that solution to them? Or do we want to give them the tools and the resources and the strategy of whatever their problem is so that maybe somebody else is coming in and ultimately implementing or doing whatever strategy we came up with? And those are two completely different business models. They require different amounts of time and different amounts of resources on your own part to execute long term. And that is something that I have conversations with my clients on is, what is that overall strategy? What are we trying to build towards? Because the tools and resources, like I said, one is going to probably be more equipped that you could do it as a solo provider with higher margins. But then going back to that pricing, we have to have those different tiers or those different levers of things that we're including in the package that increase the value or decrease the value so that we're not giving everybody access and responding to everyone in the gold package, call it time frame. Because then as we grow our client roster, that's where we run into the issues of previous clients got used to you responding in a certain amount of time. And now you're not responding in that time frame because they're technically not paying for that value now. And then the other model would be, how are we going to leverage staff? What kind of reserves do we need to have in place to be able to hire when we need to hire and scale in that capacity? And I think it becomes a little bit of a shift or a hard shift if we start going down the doing all of the daily, weekly tasks and wanting to shift over to strategy later on because our schedule gets so booked. Our calendar is full doing the tasks. So how do you, or what do you often see as some of those mindset hurdles, if you will, or those shifts, those common thoughts that people have within your masterminds of switching over to strategy or reducing their client load or trying to start now pricing for this value versus hourly or the tasks that you're providing the client?
Yeah, this is such a great question. There's so much in here. So the first thing is that I want to acknowledge that there are phases of business ownership and you don't really get to skip steps because we have to go through.
But we want to. So
I know
bad.
we want to, but we can help you accelerate through the phases so that you don't get caught in the phases. But there are these phases of business ownership that you just have to go through in order to learn what you need to learn to go to the next step. And I think that first phase of business ownership is going from being a W-2 and saying, I don't want to work for somebody else anymore. I want to work for myself. I want the freedom and the autonomy. So you go out, you hang your shingle, you get clients, and you are paid directly by your clients to do the work for your clients. And what happens is that because you typically are prone to pricing by the hour and you think, I used to get paid $80K for this work. So hooray, that's $40 an hour. And you kind of back into that math. What ends up happening is that even though it feels great to be your own boss, you're underpriced and you end up working all the time and taking on a huge volume of clients. And then you feel trapped because you want to take on better clients. You want to make more money. You need to make more money, but you don't have room for them in your schedule. So you come to this fork in the road where you're like, how do I make more money? I don't have any more hours to work. And one way to grow is to add staff and to effectively have mini-me's. Another way to grow is to decide to add as few staff as possible, to sort of add staff as a last resort, and instead increase your expertise. And instead of leveraging bodies to do work over time and to buy hours low and sell them high, to instead deepen your expertise in a certain area and help your clients with strategy instead of helping them get the work done. And there's so much more value in the strategy because it's upstream. And if you nail the strategy, then everything that you execute downstream happens much easier. So coming back to this phase of business ownership, this is the first phase. And if a person is in it, know that it's totally fine to be in it and know that you can get out of it. And the way out of it is to start getting better clients at higher prices. And the way to do that is to deepen your expertise, focus on strategy, and understand where you're creating value for clients and start pricing for the value. And slowly reshape your client roster by, if you have minnow clients now, you bring in a trout, and for every trout you bring in, you let go of a few minnows, and then you reshape your basket of fish so that it's all trout. And then over time, you're like, okay, now I want tuna. And then you bring in tuna, you let go of a bunch of trout and so on. But you just catch a bigger one and you release some small ones off the bottom and you reshape your roster progressively over time. It's not like it's a light switch that just happens in a given moment. But I think the most important thing for your listeners to understand is, as a business owner, you want to move through the phase of thinking of yourself as being a set of hired hands to thinking of yourself as somebody who provides value for clients and pricing accordingly.
Yes, that has very much explained and summarized the last probably 24 months of my business for sure. Mm-hmm. there was absolutely that first phase of I started out preparing tax returns, and that was really the only service I offered initially. And then from there, I had to make shifts and adapt to, okay, what else are these clients that are just coming to me for tax returns? What else do they need? What other conversations are they wanting to have? What other problems can I be helping to solve? And so then it was adding on some sort of monthly package for them. And then it became, oh, now we need to have some conversations and consulting along with it. And then now we need to forecast. So it was just adding on each layer based on the conversations that I was now having at that new level of clients. But we've had this conversation a lot. It's not an end destination, right? It's a journey. It's an experiment, whatever you want to call it. But over time throughout your business, you just keep making small shifts and steps along the way rather than I'm going to arrive there. We never really arrive.
There is no arrival point.
But when we open our mind to how do we tackle the next challenge that's in front of us, or how do we create the next level of value to our clients or customers? How do we identify what it is, that next problem that we can help solve? And then how do we do that, keeping our own schedule and time and capacity in mind? So something you have really laid your shingle on is helping CPAs specifically with either increasing their revenue or at least keeping their revenue the same while working less hours. And so talk to me about, where do you begin? When you go from that scarcity, I don't have enough time for anything, how do I even begin to think about reducing hours and it not impacting my dollars?
Hey there, fellow female business owner. Are you tired of sifting through endless articles, resources, and scrolling social media just to find the nuggets of wisdom that actually apply to your journey? Well, I've got something just for you. When you join our weekly email list, you will receive a go-to resource with actionable tips, inspiring stories, and valuable insights tailored specifically for women entrepreneurs like you. Each week, we deliver a dose of empowerment straight to your inbox, covering everything from mastering your money mindset to navigating the ever-changing landscape. Join other like-minded women who are leveling up their business and living their dreams. Sign up for the weekly email today, and let's conquer the business world together. Head on over to the show notes and find the link for you to enter your email address to get started. You'll be the first to hear about upcoming masterclasses and have weekly action items to contribute to your success. Sign up today.
The first place to start if you're in time scarcity because you have more client work than fits in your week is to increase your prices, because you have clients in your roster, if you are full, who will surely pay you more than they're currently paying you. So if you can increase your prices, and I recommend doing this in a stepwise fashion, not doing necessarily a huge price increase right out of the gates because it's too risky. We're trying to run small experiments so that we can learn. So just depending on where the business owner is, we might start with 20% or 50% price increase so that we can increase revenue with some of the existing clients that we have so that we can meet our revenue needs. And once the revenue needs are met with price increases, afford to, in air quotes, let go of clients off the bottom. It's really important to progress out of time and revenue scarcity because we don't make optimal decisions in a mental or headspace of time or money scarcity. We tend to make suboptimal decisions in those headspaces. So for people who have more work than they can handle, progressive price increases so that you can say, okay, now I can let go of, let's say, 25% of clients and I still have the same revenue. While we do that, we are also looking for ways to get time back by having clients who look increasingly like each other. So you can standardize, systematize, operationalize, make your business run more efficiently instead of having it feel like you've got a wheelbarrow full of frogs that you're trying to push across your yard and they just keep jumping out and you just spend the day chasing frogs. So we want to get frogs clients who stay in the wheelbarrow, who behave, and you can push your wheelbarrow across the yard and just have it be like one pass through and you're done. The drivers of your business, there are three simple things. It's create value for your clients, it's price effectively, and it's deliver efficiently. So you want to focus on, when you're in time scarcity, how do I claw back 15 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 5 minutes there with this thing that I do week after week, month after month, so that with every 5 minutes I get back, I reinvest that into finding 5 or 15 more minutes that I can look at a system, optimize it, make it clearer, make it simpler, not have to go hunting for things under stones, like do a scavenger hunt in my file of windows to find the things I need, make it super smooth so that we progressively are getting time back. And when you get your time back, your hours go down and you get your prices up. That's really the 1-2 punch that you need to increase your revenue and get your hours down.
Yeah, it's really shifting and focusing on that 5 and 10 minute increments here and there, right? We want to schedule, that's going to take me an hour, 2 hours all day for me to do something to make progress, to make this efficient. But if we just look at it from, how do I spend 5 minutes to make this more efficient? How do I spend 10 minutes? How do I do the little pieces that I can implement that will eventually add up to the hours and the weeks over time without, getting caught in that thought of, I don't have time. I need to schedule the time, but I don't have time. How do I schedule the time? I'm not making any progress. And we just keep kicking it down the can down the road with that thought, I never have time, when if we just switch that to, I have 5 minutes to make progress on this 1 step or 2 steps of the process. If I can make it so that my email inbox takes me less time every day or every week, how do I do that? What would that look like? Rather than having to know A to Z, let's just focus on A to B for right now and know that A to B will add up and we'll eventually get to Z.
Yeah. And to make this more concrete, I love the example of the email inbox because so many people get sucked down a rabbit hole the minute they open that thing up. And to be able to invest 5 minutes in just figuring out a single filter, or 5 minutes in unsubscribing from a bunch of emails that you never read and they clog your inbox, whatever it might be, just those 5 minutes will compound. By way of quick example, another way to think about this is, what's the one-time solution for this versus what's the permanent solution for this so that I never have to have this question again? So, for example, I was answering a question in Slack earlier and I thought, let me just answer this quick. And I thought, hold on a minute, rather than answer this quick and just send them the file that they need, where do I put the file? Why is it that I'm even getting asked this question in the first place? This file needs to be accessible for everybody and readily findable for everybody so that I don't ever receive this question to begin with. Not that the question was bad, it wasn't, but I want them to have access to the file. I want them to bump right into the file.
Yeah, you recognize the value was them having access to that information whenever they needed it. And so you could provide the solution of giving them that access, creating that file, whatever it was, and helping speed up so that they don't even have to get you involved, but that's still you providing value to them.
Exactly. So what I needed to do was recognize, rather than go, let me just send you the file because I know you need it, was to say, where do I need to put this file so that they stumble into it 5 days earlier than the question arrived, and put it in multiple places so that they run right into it. So I've got to think about, what do I need to do and spend 5 to 7 minutes putting this file and cross-linking it so that no matter where they are, they're going to bump into it and have it so that I never receive this question again. Not that I didn't like the question, not that the question was bad, but it's better for them to get the file sooner, and it's better for me to not receive the question. But it takes an investment of thought and time to say, not how do I solve this problem right now, but what's the permanent solution to this problem?
Yeah. How do you address, or how do you help bring awareness to the thoughts that are coming up that the client or your clients would be having in adjusting their pricing or adjusting for that value, right? Because on the one side of the fence, they're going to see, it's taking me less time. That's less valuable. I'm not going to charge or price for that. How do we get to the other side of the fence where we do see that value and we're properly priced for that client having access to the information that they're wanting to with no effort on our part after we've created the thing one time.
How do you change how you think about value?
Yes.
Yeah. So this one too is like, we just got taught so much stuff that was effectively incorrect along the way that we need to unlearn. And especially for folks who are in hourly billing industries, like engineering, architecture, lawyer, potentially graphic design, we need to unlearn the habit of hourly billing and believing that our time is valuable to our clients. Our time is valuable to us, but our clients don't care about our time.
No.
Your clients care about their time, not your time. The only person who cares about your time is your golden retriever who wants to go out for a walk. They're like, hurry up and get that thing done. Get home. I want to go fetch the ball, right? That's like your golden retriever is the only one who cares about your time. Your clients care about their own time, and what they are buying from you is their own time back. So we want to undo this thinking around, I worked so hard on it, but I put so much time into it, but I put so much effort into it, but I deserve to be paid. You are not entitled to be paid by your clients. Your job as a business owner is to understand what they value and to figure out how to package up your expertise in a way that gives them what they value. And then your job as a smart person is to figure out how to do that in as little time as possible for you. And we want to get out of this thinking of this quote, I see it all over the place, being paid what you're worth.
Oh, I cringe every time I see it.
Cringe has nothing to do with anything. Your worth as a person is whole and it was given to you the day you were born. Nobody can add to it. No one can take it away. Your clients are paying you for the value that you create for them. You are not entitled to be paid what you're worth. It doesn't even exist. That thought is having Lucky Charms with the Easter Bunny. It's not even a real thing. So we really need to dig into and step into our clients' shoes to understand what is worth it to them. What is the outcome that they are seeking? And it's usually multiple steps away from the work that we are doing. So just by way of quick example, if you've ever taken a plane flight, like for example, let's pretend I'm going to Las Vegas for Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. I am not buying airplane services by the hour, nor am I buying a plane ticket, nor am I buying a plane ticket to Vegas, nor am I buying a ticket to the Stanley Cup Finals, nor am I buying the hockey game. I am buying the memory of being at Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals with my kid, have the pictures, put them up on the wall, so that every time I see the photo, I can be like, oh, that was so amazing, right? I'm buying the memory. It has nothing to do with fractional time of airline services. So as business owners, we need to walk those multiple dots away from the thing that we're actually selling and to connect it to the real end of what the client is buying.
Right. It's the social media manager where they're not buying X number of posts. They're buying getting in front of their ideal client and sharing a message that will connect with that person and bring them into their world. Whether that's one post, whether that's 500 posts, that can vary, but that's not what they're buying. They're buying that marketing experience and bringing people into their ecosystem.
They're buying more potential clients at higher conversion rates and faster. So if I were to buy that product, would I rather it take 500 posts to get there, or would I rather it take 5 posts to get there? Yes. I want it to take 5 posts to get there, or better yet, 1. But I don't care what the price is. If the lifetime value of a client is $100,000 and you can get me the right post that in 5 days I'm going to get that client, I would happily pay you $10,000. But if it takes you 10 months and 500 posts and I need to come up with all the content, I'm only going to want to pay you $1,000 because it's way more work for me.
Yeah.
So as the buyer, you've got to think of the business outcome and the emotional investment and the time and the frustration that it might take for your client and optimize for all of those things.
What do you say when people start looking around at competition and the pricing of others in the industry?
If you're being compared on price, you're not specialized or expert or different enough.
Yeah.
You're still being viewed as a pair of hands to get some work done. And if that's the case, I would encourage you to transition out of that by focusing on a target market or industry or niche, deepening your expertise inside that industry or niche so that you can get better, faster results, so that you are the only person who does what you do in the way that you do it, and you get the best possible results, and you stand out, and you have no competition. And when you have no competition, you don't get compared to on price.
Yeah, very much so. And then the last thing I want to address is, as people have a goal of shifting down in hours, I think there is a shift or a transformation that has to happen or happens at some point where they open up their mind to what else they would be doing if they weren't working. And it's almost like we have to know what our priorities are or know what our desires are. What would we rather be doing than working? Because otherwise we just get stuck in that working model to feel productive, or going back to that whole concept of worth that we don't like. If that's where we're setting our worth from, then of course that's where we're going to continue to choose and spend our time. But it's almost like we have to know what else we would rather be doing with our time. And I think especially as women, that's a harder than it should be concept to figure out what else would you do if you weren't spending all the time at your desk or at your laptop.
This is such an interesting problem to have. And I see this happen in the transition from, in my programs, we go first down to 40 hours, which feels really normal for CPAs. Like a 40-hour week is the socially normal thing to do. But going down to 25 hours is like, wait a minute, what's going wrong here? Like, when's the other shoe going to drop? Did I forget about something? What did I miss? And then once you get your business systematized enough and dialed so that you know you haven't missed anything because you've allowed the other shoes to drop so that you can see what they are, pick them up, and then be like, okay, how do I fix this? And then once it's all fixed, then you're left with, now what do I do with my time? And then these feelings of, and let me just back up and say, for women and men who are perhaps stay-at-home dads or however they share the workload, down to 40 and down to 25 can be sort of representative of full-time work. So for a person for whom full-time is 25 hours, you could think of it as going down to 15. But regardless, you get to this place where you have this extra time, and then all of the uncomfortable things pop up. Like, who am I if I'm not working hard? Am I being lazy? I should get to work. I should be doing something. You don't really know who to talk about it with because there aren't a lot of people who you can share this with without sounding like a jerk or like sounding like you're rubbing their noses in it, which we don't want to do. So there aren't a lot of people where you can just openly explore, what do I do with these 20 extra hours in my week? Yet, and like you say, if we don't solve for it and figure out what we want to do and feel okay with it, we're likely to revert to going back to our desk, or worse, creating problems in our business and sabotaging ourselves so that we have to go back to our desk. So the question becomes, how do you give yourself permission to work way less hours than is, in air quotes, normal in our society, and to feel perfectly fine about it?
Right. There would be this concept, probably if you are a business owner, entrepreneur, right? Like that growth that you're creating, you're building, so now that you have this time, how do we not fill that with bigger, more, when is enough? How do you define that?
Yeah. So we really need to get clear about what is enough, what's enough revenue, what is enough clients, what is the right amount of time for you that you want to be working in your business. And to go through one of these transitory phases of it feeling scary, gross, guilty, icky, uncertain, and allowing yourself to be in that interstitial phase between working a bunch of hours and not working a bunch of hours. But if you don't kind of force yourself to go through that phase, you'll never solve for all the problems that are in that phase that you need to solve for so that you can then get across to the other riverbank and feel comfortable and peaceful and very much at ease and calm while only working a few, be it 5, 15, 25 hours a week, and knowing that everything is okay because you've thought of everything. So I think this is some of the most beautiful, richest, important work to do because it forces us to look at the beliefs that we may have, unbeknownst to us, adopted about where our value comes as a person, as a hard worker, as somebody who's always making a contribution, overextending themselves, going the extra mile, overachieving, being a people pleaser.
Not ruffling feathers in what we're
Ruffling
asking for our
feathers,
pricing.
rocking the boat. Yeah. So it forces us, it asks of us that we turn and face those things. And in doing so, we get to the freedom on the other side. That is really the whole reason that we started our business in the first place, is to have the freedom to do what we want, when we want, and to have the revenue to be able to enjoy it.
Yes. Okay, tell us quickly about your book you just launched recently. And I know it's geared towards CPAs, but how much does it apply to other industries and those wanting to reduce their hours?
Yeah, so the book is Down to 40 Hours, a roadmap for CPAs to permanently end overworking, which you can find on Amazon. Just search Down to 40 Hours or at my website, geraldinecarter.com/book. Yes, it's geared towards CPAs because of what I think is unique about their industry, and that there are a lot of things that are unique, but they have, in general, way more business that they can handle, and they're vastly underpriced. And what they sell is oftentimes clarity around numbers. So it's geared toward that, but a lot of the concepts in the book apply to all kinds of small and solo business owners, that you really need to understand what value is and how to create it, especially for numbers and analytical minds like ours who like things that are nice and neat in boxes and that are derived from formulas. Value isn't like that. It's nebulous, but you have to get your hands around it. And then different pricing tools that you can use in your business. Most of us weren't taught pricing. It was not even a topic when I was in school. I don't think it is still. But you need to understand pricing tools and which ones to use in which situations. And I think of this like, if you're in your kitchen and you want to open a can of beans and you reach for the channel locks, they look similar, but that's a different tool and it won't work. And it's not the tool's fault. You've got to learn which tool to use in which situation to make it work for you. So we need to learn how to price effectively, and then we need to learn how to deliver efficiently. So the book is really centered around those three concepts, and those three concepts are key for any business owner, no matter what you deliver, no matter what you sell.
Yeah. All right. So with this podcast being geared towards the profitable woman and you being a business owner yourself, what is one thing that you would shout from the rooftops or just want other fellow business owners to know, just from either your own personal experience, what you've learned, or just having conversations with the clients that you've had? What's that one takeaway message that you would give them?
I want all the world's women to know exactly how to make all the money they need and more. And it is imminently doable. And once you know how to make the money that you need and more, it is a freedom beyond freedom, because you know that no matter what happens, you can simply rebuild. It's not something you ever forget how to do. And it creates a sense of internal confidence and independence that is a gift to give yourself in your lifetime.
Oh, that's amazing. Yes. Thank you for that advice for the audience. We will link to the show notes, all the places that you can find Geraldine, her book, her website, all of her resources. And even though your podcast is geared towards the topics of CPAs, like you mentioned, the book, it's still the solopreneur, the service provider, all of those same concepts could be applied in just a different way. So feel free to check out her podcast. And I am so happy that you got to spend some time on the podcast with me today and drop all kinds of gold for our audience.
Thank you so much, Sheila, for having me. It's been great to be with you.
Yep. We'll see you all next week.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Profitable Women. Make sure you never miss an episode by hitting the follow button in your favorite podcast player. And things are always easier when you talk about them with a friend, so be sure to share this episode with them. If you're looking for more ways to grow your financial confidence, head to the show notes for a link to subscribe to our weekly email. Until next time.